Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the 1991 season of Movie of the Year, the only podcast with the science and the screaming to determine the best movie for any given year. I am your host, Greg, and first off, you have to know this is a game show, so I will be awarding points, and they sound like this.
Greg. Greg.
For me? Every time my two co-hosts make good points, tell a funny joke, or just say something that strokes my ego. Ryan, you are not a fan of stroking my ego. Is that because I hit the stroke so hard?
Well, you do say it in an odd way, but pleasing. And I think it's because your handsomeness is so distracting that I don't know how to dictate or how to interpret your speaking.
Ryan.
Ooh, the rare compliment from Ryan. Mike, what do you think about all this?
Mike.
If you're wondering
Mike.
how Mike could possibly, just by showing up, create the song Bad to the Bone to be played, you have to head on over to our Patreon and become a member where we explain the origin of Mike creating Bad to the Bone every time he appears somewhere.
I think it's been too long since I've gotten to see your luscious locks and luscious beard, Greg.
That's true. Mike, you have been on the sideline a little bit. You took a little time off the show. Would you like to explain yourself?
You guys said, you don't know anything about 2021. Get out! And just wouldn't let me back in the studio for a few months.
You walked around town to all the villagers saying, I don't know anything about 2021.
Yep. Oh, really? Because I heard he
refused
said
to learn.
he was calling himself the king of 2021, and then he hadn't even seen the movie Drive My Car, Ryan.
I don't
Have you-
even know what that is.
Well, that's not surprising. You don't even know what the movie is.
Ryan Gosling?
It's nominated for Best Picture.
It's maybe even better than just the movie Drive.
It's the third in the trilogy after Drive and Drive My.
Today, everybody, a moment that I don't want to exaggerate, but I feel like the entire world has waited to with entirely bated breath.
We have had our lowest ratings ever throughout the season because in the first episode of the 91 season, Greg, you were like, wow, this year's all about Terminator 2. And everybody was like, I'm not going to listen until they get there.
Yeah, all anybody cares about is our take on Terminator 2. Remember that this show became famous when we changed the narrative about Fight Club. Remember when we did that?
Oh,
we just
yeah.
absolutely
We did
changed
do
it.
that.
And now everybody knows it by its nickname that we gave it, Alt-Right Club. And we were the first people to really proudly come out and say that. And so people want to know, what is the pop filter perspective on movies? But before we get there with Terminator 2, what's our history with Terminator 2? Did any of us in particular care about this movie as children? Mike, how about you?
Liked it a lot as a kid. Definitely saw this one before I saw Terminator 1, to the point where it took 3 other Terminator movies for me to stop showing up opening weekend on Terminator movies, and I've not seen the last 2 now. But also, I have not seen T2JD since maybe I was 20.
Yes. Okay, Ryan, did you have a similar experience where you watched it a lot as a kid, but not recently?
Yeah, I mean, this is one that we had on home video and was played constantly.
Laserdisc.
We had it on Laserdisc. We did not have a disc player, but we would spin it real fast and dance around the backyard. I feel like that I watched this movie. That's just what being a kid is you pick 10 movies and you watch them over and over again. And so even though watching this, I realized that I hadn't seen it in forever, I knew every heartbeat of this movie.
And that was exactly my experience as well, which I watched it probably more than any other movie that I've seen. When I was a kid, I watched it more than any other movie. And then I have not seen it for 10, 15 years. And I agree that I knew all the beats. But for you guys, I had not seen it in this aspect ratio for a long time. And I never thought of that.
Did you watch Pen and Scan?
Yeah, right, because I had it on VHS, and all those VHSs were little boxes, and I have not thought about that as much until this season, where I saw Terminator 2 one time in the theaters, and every other time I saw it, it was this tiny little box that was doing these weird squishy motions.
This
back
director
and
won't
forth.
stop moving the camera.
And they did the squishy motions because people were like, you have to do that or you're taking away my screen.
If you back in the VHS days, if you popped in a VHS and there was a bar at the top and the bottom,
you took it back to the store.
You
were like, this is broken.
Instead of saying to yourself, I'm getting the theater experience, instead of saying to yourself, I'm finally seeing what the director's entire vision for this was, you would freak out and start screaming and hooting because you're like, they're taking away my screen.
Which is therefore choosing, I want the sides of every shot to be gone instead of the tops and the bottoms.
And that's not how movies are made.
No.
And
what
important
were
stuff
we
doesn't happen in the
doing?
tops and bottoms normally.
When when Terminator 2 had to be pan and scanned for VHS, James Cameron was not coming in. Some fucking schlub, some intern schlub was coming in and deciding what you should see the entire time. It's truly awful. If you just turned out the lights in your room, it would be fine. Like the dark bars would blend into the background and you would have this awesome rectangle.
And you would almost right away be like, no, I do feel how this is more open. I do feel like this is more like human vision.
Yeah. Oh,
But
I do feel why it's better to watch John Connor react to things Arnold says than have it slowly pan over.
Yes.
Oh, God. It's
like such a weird pan the whole time, like everything's shuddering. And sometimes as soon as it gets to the left, it has to start moving back to the right.
Oh,
and it's like
it's
the
not
DVD loading screen or something. You just watch this thing bounce around.
It's similar to like being on a Universal Studios motion ride. Where
Yeah.
like that's how you feel when you're watching it. The other reason where I knew that this was like a very seen movie for me when I was a kid is, and alongside with my wife, we watched this together and we watched the director's cut. And every time there was an insert that was not in the original, we were screaming.
No.
Bullshit, fake, not canon.
There's probably 3 major scenes in the director's cut that weren't in the original that are. I mean, we can talk about them later.
Is
but
that Terminator Try to Smile one? Is that from the director's
That's the
cut?
one, yeah.
That's the
That's-
worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Which
That's haunting.
I don't even feel like they missed it on that scene because it probably would be weird trying to watch a weird robot man try to smile. But it's so discomforting. Like you don't feel good after watching him do that.
There's one where Michael Biehn is in Sarah's hospital room.
Michael Biehn, the English guy Bean.
Bean, yeah. Mr. Bean comes in and just like
Tries to put a chicken on her head.
and Linda Hamilton's get the fuck out of here. And they hug and then there's a dream sequence. But like this movie was perfect.
Yes.
And not only that, but like not only that we grew up, like the nostalgia makes it perfect. These scenes were cut for a reason. Get them the
Right.
fuck out of here. But the VHS copy or the DVD copy or the Laserdisc copy, if you were a multi-millionaire in the 80s, is so burned into our heads that any insert that is different, not even a scene but an insert, will make you like scream at the screen.
And it's sacrilege. It is pure sacrilege.
I mean, Jesus hates it.
When we come back, it's time to jump into the hot molten steel that is Terminator 2. You're 10 years old and you are about to see your first R-rated movie. You have come out of the wet garbage heat of the New York summer into the perfectly chilled, popcorn-infused air of the theater. You sit alone. You arrive too late to get seats with your mom. But you don't care because the Queen's crowd has already cohered into one mass of excitement and expectation. The lights go down, and the sound this mass makes still gives you chills. What happens next is lost in the hundreds of times I've seen this movie, but that excitement, the quickening before the show, has never left me. This movie is perfect. The music is perfect. The camera work is perfect. It's an action movie that never unnecessarily slows down the action in the name of exposition. It is the best Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, probably the best Linda Hamilton movie, and maybe the best James Cameron movie. I have sworn I will punish anyone who says anything bad about this movie, and that was no idle jest. So, gentlemen, I ask you this. Does Terminator 2 Judgment Day belong on that list alongside Jaws, Star Wars, and Iron Man as movies that, for better or worse, changed movies forever? Which is to say, how influential is this movie?
Mike, before we get to this, this a new episode of Movie of the Year where you have to weigh being truthful with winning points?
I'm nervous now about critiquing this film.
No, feel free to be honest. My stance is that you should give your honest appraisal of the movie.
Oh, I don't think that's true.
You have free will. You have the free choice to say whatever you want about the movie. I also have my own free will. And I will simply give points to your opponent every time you say even something slightly bad about Terminator 2. Don't test me.
Okay, I will let me start by saying
Please.
Mike.
Shit, this is
I wanted to hear way more optimism than that
This
right
is a
off the bat.
tightrope.
Yeah. Get in there, mix it up.
And this is not for points. Like, Greg, if you want to take the headphones off or whatever, but I will say that we didn't really get into this in the intro, but this was my favorite movie as a kid, and this is I would say a still pretty perfect movie.
Yeah.
I think that the one downside against it is that I typically go for the original, and this is just like movie dork douchebag bullshit. The original when the sequel is more of a big budget remake,
more of a crowd pleaser. Oh, you're saying
Evil Dead 2 style?
Evil Dead 2,
okay.
Desperado over El Mariachi. Terminator 2 is that, and James Cameron readily admits that this is I had money now.
Yeah.
Right.
So I will tell the same story that I loved. And so for most of my life, I still think that Terminator in so many ways is a better movie because I do love the down and dirty. They told that same story with almost no money is so impressive and entertaining to me, you know?
And it only looks slightly worse because they just didn't attempt as many things. But like when the Terminator moves in the first Terminator movie, it doesn't look that much better in the second one.
But me and Greg have been talking about this movie for literally the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And its influence. And I texted you, Mike, today, like, because we were working on awards and just discussing the movie, that this might be the most referenced movie of all time.
Yes.
This might be the most like, and not just like, oh, Citizen Kane. Like, have you seen Citizen Kane? I'm talking about the nitty gritty of all the details of the movie. It may be more than any other movie. Where, like, watching it again, where did you land?
Oh, yeah. Phenomenal. Super fun. Even when it's cheesy, it's a good time. And when it's awesome, it's awesome. Linda Hamilton, I think because I was a kid and wasn't she is such a fucking badass. And thinking about, because this is legacy, right? We're talking about influence and legacy. I think thinking about the other ones, because I was older when I saw the other ones. I saw them in theaters. Do you know what they fucking forgot? Is your star is Linda Hamilton, not a different dude playing a different version of John Connor every fucking movie.
Yes. Yeah.
And she crushes. John is a sidekick, as he should be in this movie. And he's probably the worst part of this movie, is a little kid who can't really act.
Greg, come on.
We will talk about acting in the second segment, and I will consider some criticism.
This judge is so kind.
Of Eddie Furlong.
There's so much I want to say about what happened after this movie, and I will start by watching it this week. When John Connor's parents have clearly been murdered, or at least the mom has, right?
Yeah.
And he calls home and he's like, hey, Mom, is that Wolfie in the bar, or is that Max in the background?
Yeah.
And Xander Berkeley, the dad, is saying, who's on the phone?
Drinking some milk.
Right.
And T-1000 puts a fucking blade right through his head. T-1000 does not say, it does the body good.
Yeah.
No.
And I think that was such a huge turning point that, like, we are no longer, to use the parlance of the times, this movie is Nirvana to the hair metal bands. And all of the old school action movies are now done. The movies were...
it isn't an unclever pun that just happened.
When you just kill a person for no reason other than they're, like, wearing a different costume than you, and then you say a clever pun, that is literally over forever. That is left from this point for, like, Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal to do in movies that barely make it off of video release if they're in theaters at all. This movie canceled all of those. And
it's because what James Cameron remembered was because the first one is a horror movie, and he just has those elements. He's like, now it is action, but I'm going to keep that.
Which is what he did with the
scary.
Aliens franchise.
Yeah. That dying can still be scary.
But you see this ripple throughout all of the action genre. Sylvester Stallone was the, like, cheesy action hero more than Arnold Schwarzenegger. And after this, he tries Demolition Man, he tries Judge Dredd, but he can't go back to that Rambo, I just deliver one-liners, because Terminator 2 came out, and there is no more of that movie ever again.
And think of how odd that is to say when First Blood, the first Rambo movie, it's not that, right? I mean, so you can kind of, like, chart the culture, because First Blood kind of takes us from, like, legitimate, like, gritty cinema, and then we watch that whole Rambo franchise transition into exactly the kind of action that you're decrying here, Ryan. And then finally he has to, like, abandon that franchise because everything needs to be too gritty at that point.
And, like, there has to be reasons for stuff. We can't just be like, I mean, John Wick was a throwback because it was you killed my dog. Like that was a throwback to when, like before we were kids, of how simple the action premise needed to be, because James Cameron elevated, we need a premise.
Well, and that's talking about influences, this premise. Now, normies can talk about time travel and don't instantly roll their eyes. Like, Endgame would not exist without Terminator 2, because now you can get theaters full of people all over the country just being like, yeah, I'll watch time travel shit. Who gives...
You know what's smart about the way they handle it? They don't lean on the time travel
They
stuff.
don't talk about
it's
it.
just like
I don't think they should.
They travel in time. Like, they don't spend a lot of time being like, but wait, can we prevent this from... Like, it already happens, right? If you're here, then we know for a fact. They just like, nah, don't worry about that, man. We're going to just like fire guns and shit. It's going to be so cool. The
other thing I realized, this hit me while I was watching it, in the Pescadero Hospital, which is not a prison. It's just a normal place where people need a little bit of rest and to get licked on the cheek.
Get their faces maybe licked or something.
Doctor's orders.
There was this bath of blue light as everybody was coming in, as everybody was like entering the arena for this fight. And that is so very clearly Spielberg, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you enter into a Spielberg movie, you're either bathed in gold or blue light. And then I was thinking about it, like this is Cameron's Spielberg movie.
Yes, yeah.
Because we're not focusing on what the future may hold. We're focusing on John doesn't have a dad. What does he need? He needs a dad. That is Spielberg as fuck. And then I thought about like the difference between Cameron and Spielberg. And in all other Cameron movies besides this one, the humans go to the strange place.
Right.
You know, they go to a strange land, whether it's the abyss or aliens. We're normal humans. We're like business people. And then we go to the strange place.
Or just the middle of the freaking ocean. Yeah.
And Titanic works too, of like, this is not our normal world. Yeah, we're going to a new world.
If we were to get dropped into this water, we'd be fucked.
Or Avatar, like we're going to get, what Spielberg does is he says, we're going to keep it normal and we're going to bring one sci-fi element, Close Encounters, E.T., into the normal world. And it's just the one element. And so in so many ways, this is Cameron Spielberg movie of I'd rather focus on the family and the son and the dad and just have a little bit of sci-fi. And that seems crazy to say about Terminator 2, but just a little bit of sci-fi in the thing. And then, just like the Beatles begat the Beach Boys, begat the Rolling Stones, begat the Beatles, what did Spielberg do right after this movie came out?
Jurassic Park?
He made his first movie where he takes the normal people and puts them in the weird world. He made his first... Jurassic Park is a Cameron movie. It's the only Spielberg movie where he takes them and puts them in the different land, and then the different people rule. So this is a very clear one-up. I don't know if it was like if this is actually true.
It doesn't feel one-uppy. It feels just like, I admire you. I like your shit. I'm going to do it.
For sure. Like, and I think you can say that about rock bands, too, when they do this to each other. That, like, I'm not doing this because I hate you. I do this because I love you.
Yeah.
But you have to put some stank on it. But, yeah, Cameron is throwing normal people into crazy situations. And this was his one where, like, I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to be like, this is what if a little bit happened in a very real-world situation.
Yeah, and I think he captures that with like a lot of the vehicles that are used in this. Like they're always in trucks and like heavy machinery that we see every day. Not like in a lot of movies, if there's going to be as many cars and vehicles as are in this, they would be like Porsches and Ferraris.
Right. I mean,
but instead, there's one cool vehicle, which is the Harley Davidson bike, right? That looks cool. But the rest are like a station wagon, a truck that can is a gardening truck and can only go 60 miles an hour.
Yeah. When Sarah, John, and Arnold finally come together and there are three of them in the front seat, what is the car that they're in?
That's the station wagon, right?
No, it's a truck with a home built on it.
They
literally run into the same home to live under the same roof as they drive away. Like, we are seriously building a family here and saying that the power of family will propel you more than...
And that I missed completely as a kid. This was my first viewing where I was like, oh, it's all about your family and what you think you want versus what your kid needs.
That is an interesting part of the experience of watching this, because this is a movie I could just completely recreate by closing my eyes and just watching my memories of it. And yet for this time, there's the first time where I was ever thinking about like, what's this movie about? Like, what's actually going on here? And when I was a kid, I thought Linda Hamilton, a woman in an insane asylum, separated from her family, and like the way that authority completely like just takes command of her life. I had no idea that there was like a rich legacy of that in literature forever. That like that is
it's
the
a bit
model.
of a reference to the yellow wallpaper.
Yeah, right. And so I just thought, because that's the perfect situation to put your heroine from the first movie in. That like here is why she's dispossessed now, and here's what she has to worry about, and here's the kind of like tyranny that this entire movie is spitting in the face of, right?
Which was allegedly her demand.
Which was her demand, right? And I think like really gives the character more depth than ever existed for her in Terminator, where it was her job to just be kind of the final girl.
I love that, like, because you would think that the writer and then the director are in charge of the character, but that performer was that fucking character. So let's talk to the performer about what they think they would be like 8 years later when all this shit went down.
That's why this is elevated from the we just have more money, we're remaking the thing. Because a core character in these two movies is so drastically different from Sarah Connor, Terminator 1 to this one, because she actually, things affected her in a way. In most movies and most franchises, they don't get affected by anything fucking ever. They're the same as they always will be. She is a different person in the most believable of ways.
Yeah, think of what a badass she is, but the second the Terminator suddenly pops up in front of her, she like runs in the opposite direction, and that's like because
so good.
Because she is trauma in this movie.
She's stuck in quicksand. Like the movie goes to slow motion, and she can't get away.
Yeah, because it's like her nightmare. Her nightmare is coming true. So speaking of legacy, it is weird. Like a lot of people like Terminator. A lot of people I think are like me and Mike Ryan. Instead of liking Terminator more, it's like no, it's a good movie, but the Terminator 2 is where it's at.
We perfected this.
Yeah. But there are like 157 other Terminator movies, none of which I have even seen. How'd they fuck up so much? How come the legacy of this movie is not 3 great additional movies?
Oh, I think it's like it's really hard to talk to people like go back and watch the 1933 King Kong, and it's because there's a 2005 King Kong, and there's every monster movie of all time.
Skull Island.
There's Kong Skull Island.
Dude, go watch Kong Skull Island. I would tell anybody that.
The graphics have gotten better, and the ideas have been copied so many times that you now feel like it's just degenerating ideas. So when you go and do the same thing again, like that you created all of pop culture.
Yeah.
But now it just feels like that you're copying it. What would have been great is if you did something new, which he tried to do with Avatar and Titanic, but to go out and just redo Terminator again, bitch, we get 50 Terminators a year. There's not 150 Terminators, released every year. We have 50 every year because of how influential this movie was.
Yeah,
he fucked himself by being so good.
I mean, The Matrix is probably the best Terminator.
I saw
The Matrix
so
is
much
the best
Matrix
Terminator
here.
sequel.
You know, it's so funny. When I was a kid, there could not be more time in between Terminator 2 when Terminator 2 came out and when The Matrix came out.
Yeah.
But folks, that was 8 years.
Yeah.
Like, imagine what 8 years feels like now. If you're James Cameron, aren't you like, hey, Matrix, interesting movie. Where did you get some of these ideas? So there are some shots, like the shot of the going down Neo's throat when he screams. That's the same shot that when the T-1000 is in the molten lava and is screaming. Like it's like a shot for shot remake.
The Matrix, like the bank, the lobby fight has to be an ode to this lobby. Some of the columns are the same, and they're going by.
Running around the columns is exactly the same. Also, the bunker. We spent 10 minutes, and I love the 10 minutes, but we spent 10 minutes with Uncle Enrique so they could get weapons. Where the Wachowski sisters were just like, we need guns. And that was it. Let's avoid 10 minutes.
That's the only time the movie slows down even a little bit. And I think that's just so that there can be a little slow period so that everything else around it seems that much more.
Right. Go pee because shit's about to go nuts again until the end of the movie.
When you see Uncle Enrique pop out to smoke a ciggy and then come back right after that. When we come back, another award-winning segment.
Mount Rushmore.
Yes, that's right. Mount Rushmore, a monument we can all feel super good about and super proud that it represents the best of our country, and there's no need to look any deeper into that.
Hey, Greg, I think it's the worst of our country. Let's change the heads.
Let's change the heads. Okay, fine. We'll change the goddamn heads. Let's see, but I'll pick what they are. Let's see, 1991, obviously, because that's the season we're doing.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then
Candles?
Scandals. Let's do Scandals.
Okay. Candles. The Yankee Candles of 1991.
Ooh, okay.
Ryan.
That would have been good, but it wouldn't be fair because Ryan obviously is such a candles bitch, and there's just no way Mike would ever compete with Ryan's like crazy candle game. Ryan, rarest candle you own, go.
Oh, that is the 1986 Reggie Jackson World Series candle.
That candle hit 3 home runs in one game. All right. Ryan, you have earned the right to go first. Give me those tasty 1991 scandals.
Now, Greg, this is your least favorite thing. Like, this is your least favorite Rushmore because we have to talk about some serious stuff.
Because it's because I always here's what I always expect. Like, ooh, this actress was caught in a steamy situation, and here's always what it is. Ooh, kids are choking on their toys. Like, fuck.
I brought that up once. All right.
You know what, Mike? It bummed me out.
It was also the first time we did scandals, I think.
I think we have to go with one of the biggest stars of 91. Like, everyone knows his name. Definitely totally raped someone. Went to prison, got out of prison, and now he had a cartoon, and we're all just, and he stars in hangover movies, and we're all just okay with it. But there was no doubt that he definitely sexually raped a woman. That's Mike Tyson.
Yeah. This is so weird. Like, is it because he went to prison and came out? Like, it's not like he was like, oh, sorry, everybody. Yeah, obviously that was wrong. Like, he fought and then was convicted and went to jail. And now it's just kind of like, it feels like that's not part of the equation when he's in stuff. I mean,
when people remember Mike Tyson's bad 90s, they remember years after this where he bit off Evander Holyfield's ear.
Yes, right? Yeah, like there's other things.
So maybe he didn't chill out in prison.
This is actually probably not his first time on a scandal, because we did 97.
Yeah.
This is probably not his first time on the Rushmore scandal.
But, I mean, it certainly was a scandal. It rocked sports. It was a really big story. And, yeah, so, and now you can see him on Adult Swim if you want to, the Mike Tyson Detective Agency. And honestly, I don't know. Maybe the right thing is that if somebody is convicted and then serves their sentence,
it's pretty rare at this point.
Yeah, right? Because now most people just lie and say they didn't do it and then never get convicted, and then we never get any justice. So, you know, maybe there was something restorative about the fact that he went to prison and came back, and then, but I think we lose something if we don't at least say, like, hey, this guy, remember? Like,
yeah, it's still scandalous.
It's on his resume.
It's definitely on his resume.
Bro,
and
take that off your LinkedIn at least.
Ryan.
It's on our mountain of scandals. Mike, do you have a scandal at least as fun as this?
Who choked on toys, Mike?
I'm going to try to make it even more fun than that. And this is a scandal so big it hit me. In 91, I was 6, and I heard about this, even if I didn't understand all of the stories. But a well-beloved childhood TV star.
Were you able to connect the dots? La, la, la.
Pee-wee jerked his Herman in a public porn theater.
Yes. Okay, this is what I want. This is what I want the scandals to be. Because, look, there's no victim here, right? Like, well, kind of Pee-wee Herman is. Like, kind of
Pee-wee Herman is.
This is a weird sting operation, and it's like, people go to these porn theaters, and it's a private place. What you're doing there, I think, is your own business.
I'm shocked to find out that there is jerking off in this porn den.
Yeah, like, what is the...
Go home and think about it and do it there like a normal person.
You sit there and you watch the entire 2-hour feature film, and then you're like, all right, I got some saucy images to conjure up later when I'm in the privacy of my own home.
Mike.
Yeah. Justice for Pee-wee. Like, this is a perfect example of the kind of scandals that I want. I want to see celebs with their Pee-wee Herman out.
I mean, I would say borderline, if not definite, Pop Filter Hall of Famer future.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
And much like Mike Tyson, he did his time, and now he's been rehabilitated. We're ready to open our arms with forgiveness for you, Pee-wee Herman. Very awful time in my life because my mom had to explain what the story was about.
Yeah.
In a children's pop-up book.
Yeah. So something's up with Pee-wee. Ryan, we have 2 of our spots already filled. What do you got?
I think that sometimes scandals have a lot to do with what did you do? And
very true. I think that's very true.
The biggest one is Hugh Grant and Divine Brown. Like, I'm sorry, you're married to Elizabeth Hurley, and what did you do?
Yeah.
But the OG is this year when Prince Charles told Diana, I am cheating on you. And it is with Camilla Parker Bowles.
Yeah.
Princess Diana, everybody loved. Camilla, less so. Everybody was confused by this.
Yeah.
This is just before a book came out. So they sort of revealed it before the book that Prince Charles, you don't have to be faithful if you're a royal. You're supposed to have two personas. And he was rocking that other persona all night long with Camilla.
Yeah.
Camilla.
Sorry. The story of every single royal is that you have one person that you are in love with, and then another person that you marry, and what you're supposed to do is just let that destroy the life of everyone around you while you keep it a big secret. And instead, he let it destroy the life of everyone around him, but he did not keep it a big secret, and that's where the trouble came in.
Am I a royal? I did that. I married a girl named Stephanie.
I'm in love with
Mike and Greg.
Oh, you big absolute sweetie. All right, I'm putting that on the maybe pile, but like with a little asterisk, like I'm just doing this because I keep filling up.
You don't want to go 4 for 4.
Yeah.
You don't want to be known as that guy, as a Greg, as we call him.
So I interact with the world with a lot of enthusiasm. Mike, what else is scandalous from '91?
This fun romantic scandal energy, and this I did not know this at first, but it was huge at the time. Is Julia Roberts legit runaway brided from Kiefer Sutherland, and then got with his friend.
Hey, Mike, you're about to get married to a guy named Kiefer. Do you not run away?
Yeah, I'm gonna go and fool around with Jason Patrick as well. Kiefer? You know what? No, I deny this. And then she later made a movie about it.
When you say runaway bride, like she on the day of her wedding, she like strapped on those sneakers.
It was pretty close.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it was day of, but they were engaged and everything was like locked in.
This is weird. I guess because I was 10 and so I wasn't really following pop culture very closely because this doesn't really ring a bell, but I have to say,
Mike.
It's delightful.
Yeah, dude, I love it, especially because then she's like, yeah, dude, I'll be in a movie called Runaway Bride. I did that.
It's hilarious.
I've already done the work.
That was 8 years later, but that is what a fucking strike to Kiefer's heart that now you're going to make a movie called Runaway Bride.
Is that why he's so sad all the time?
Yeah, it's because of her.
But I thought it was because the 8 seasons of 24. Don't make me do it anymore.
And it's crazy because, what's a Kiefer? It's for locking it down.
Oh!
Mike.
Oh.
I think we all saw that coming.
Directly to the frozen account of Mike. All right, Ryan. We got 3 spots filled here, bud. We're going to maybe lightning round. So do you have a maybe for me?
I don't know which head, Greg, to give this if this does make it on the mountain because it probably belongs to Magic. But I think that it might belong to Karl Malone.
Okay.
Magic Johnson says that he has AIDS, and he's HIV positive, and it's a very big deal. We've talked about this before earlier in the season. Probably when we did Pro Stars. And that's really the only time we get to talk about sports, and it was a huge, huge deal. But it's not necessarily a scandal until people make it one.
Yes.
And then a lot of people came out and said, well, if he's HIV positive and I'm on the court with him, I will automatically get AIDS.
Yeah. Here's what they believed would happen. They believed that he would fall down and cut himself. First of all, I don't know if you watch a lot of NBA listeners, but they don't get cut that much, okay?
Or if you've ever lived your life and walked around.
One time every few games, somebody will bleed a little bit, okay? And they started a policy where the second someone bleeds, they have to go off the court. Then, this is what they thought might happen. You yourself would become cut somehow, and those cuts would crash into each other, and that's how you get HIV. Fellas, I promise you, that's not where basketball stars of the 90s were in danger of getting HIV. Honestly, I don't think that's the behavior that endangered a lot of these guys' lives, just playing beside Magic Johnson. Yeah, and Karl Malone was like, I just will not freaking play if that's
so dumb.
If that's what it takes. And Magic was still really, really, really good at this time. Yeah, this is an upsetting personal sports story because big Laker fan, and it transcended that experience. Everybody loves Magic, and when he got HIV, it felt like I had known someone in my personal life who around the same time got HIV, and it felt like a real pandemic, and it felt like the world was starting to come undone. Fuck you, Karl Malone.
Plus, the news did a really good job of saying that this is a new thing instead of saying this has been around for 10 years.
Oh, man, we just heard about this. This is wow. Oh. Mike, what do you have for my scandal pile?
I'm out of fun ones, Greg.
Okay.
This event is in history books as the Tailhook Scandal. Scandal is in the name. And it was there used to be an annual naval conference, like people and officers from the Navy would go to Tailhook and then have this giant whatever they do at conferences, but on the third floor of Tailhook Hotel, they called it the Gauntlet and just brutalized men and women and sexually assaulted a bunch of people and then hit it. And then one woman who was also in the Navy spoke up about it, and bafflingly enough, because this often doesn't happen, so many people lost their jobs. But there were trials, a lot of people lost their careers. The Tailhook Scandal, very fucked up, very sad, but rare military justice. You
know what it was? The playbook had not been written yet for just deny nonstop. That, like, when they present, I mean, Shaggy had not released his hit song yet. Like, it was, and the playbook was probably invented by Bill Clinton, right? Which is, you just keep saying, I didn't. Like, as they bring out evidence, no, I didn't. And so this was back when people could actually be shocked and shamed. In 91, the words tailhook were huge. And so
Mike,
it's not a fun one, but it was like a huge scandal of that year. And it proved that even if you were in the Navy, you still weren't necessarily part of the, like, really establishment unless you were a dude.
Well, thankfully, sexual assault in the military stopped after that.
Yeah. Then we've really gotten the military completely straightened out.
Never an issue again.
Not a whole bunch of weird different things going on in the military all the time. So our fun, flirty scandals from 91 are... okay, this one's not fun, and I don't want to be glib about it. Mike Tyson convicted of rape. Tailhook, a whole bunch of people losing their jobs for various sexual assaults. But then, kind of in the fun category, Pee Wee Herman abusing himself in a public theater. And this is my favorite one. Julia Roberts runs away from Kiefer Sutherland. Really, such a good move, Julia. I mean, maybe not done the best way, but really such a good idea. When we come back, we return to talking about Terminator 2. Well, that is very, very funny. Or very sad. And perhaps now you have something to think about. Or very problematic, and perhaps we have something to think about. But in any event, I'm sure you have some reaction to what you're listening to. So why not check us out on the social media? You can go to Instagram or Twitter and find us at YourPopFilter. Email contacts@YourPopFilter. Hey, everybody. Keep watching them movies. Edward Furlong's performance was hard for anyone other than 12-year-old girls to handle back in 1991. And Greg, I was pretty much obsessed with him. How has it aged? What about Arnold, Linda Hamilton, Joe Morton, and the breakout role for Robert Patrick? James Cameron is not known for getting incredible performances out of his actors. But how did he do here?
I think that James Cameron is a storyteller.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was thinking this morning that James Cameron might.
Now we love James Cameron, right? Like we're like maybe one day he'll be in the Hall of Fame.
I think so. Like especially after this rewatch, like I think there's so much less to make fun of, and I sort of enjoy the things that we make fun of.
Right, and I think it's remembering his old career. Will never see Avatar, old or new.
Well, how punk rock, Mike? Are you sure that like,
it's been
be
so
that
long.
Punk rock?
You know why?
So long.
You know why you should
why
see
would I watch it
Avatar?
now?
Because the experience of Avatar leaves your brain as soon as you leave the theater. I have never had a movie that had like less of like a memory implant.
It's the cotton candy of movies.
Yes, dude. It doesn't matter if you haven't.
As a stance, it was just like it, and then it fell out of pop culture matters.
Mike.
But
here's how I will recommend it. If you have seen every other James Cameron movie, just watch it. Just watch it. Be a completist. Like
that's true. I even used to own The Abyss.
Who gives a fuck? And I love The Abyss.
Dude,
oh
The
my
Abyss
god,
rocks.
The Abyss
No,
fucking
The Abyss
rules.
is dope as shit.
The Abyss is real. What are we talking about?
The Abyss.
Not The Abyss.
Oh, but I compare him a lot to Pixar in that I am going to use the best effects possible to tell the simplest story.
Yeah.
And I'm going to not redefine how stories are told, but reinforce how stories should be told.
Yes.
By using the effects. And I watched the director's cut, and it was so very clearly what was cut is what was cut because they weren't simple James Cameron things of they moved from here to here to here to here, and that is how a story should work. That's how Pixar did it, that's how Dad did it, and that's how James Cameron does it.
Well, it feels almost like he is a technologist or a scientist who just happens to work in the movies. Like his interest is in pushing graphics and like more and more and more. He went to the Marianic Trench, like he was the first solo person to do that. Like he just happens to be like, well, scientists don't make money. Yeah. I'm going to do what I want and push technology forward while making movies. So I push technology forward.
Mike, we're 2 minutes into the segment and we have not like we are very seriously avoiding the question.
Yeah, because the question is not James Cameron. Is he a great director? Or James Cameron, what are his strengths?
That being said,
the question takes as for granted it takes that he doesn't get the best performances we've seen out of his actors. But does that hold true for this? And who is it true for? Who is it not true for?
I think it's good.
If we want to talk about good first, I do think Linda Hamilton and Joe Morton, I think, crush what is asked for them. Joe Morton has a pretty thankless role, and I think elevates it because he is a
Joe Morton
actor.
Is the psychiatrist?
He is Miles Dyson.
Miles Dyson. No, he's the guy who finds out he invents the thing to destroy humanity.
That guy. Yeah.
And it unlike most of the rest of the movie, he doesn't say, hey, you're a crazy bitch. He starts crying, even though he is like shot. He is now more worried about what he will do.
In a movie of a lot of big performances, doesn't his acting chops, isn't he more of an entertainer than almost any other actor in the movie?
Miles Dyson has a really under-heralded but often repeated performance of
Dude, I still breathe like that. Like if I'm nervous, I still go like because it's a really good way to calm myself down because I just remember him and I'm like, just be like him, dying, I guess.
Yeah,
blowing
just explode
up.
Yourself.
I don't know.
Just
It's
explode yourself,
it's very
hero.
calming.
No, I think he elevates that role so much. And then Linda Hamilton, again, watching this, I'm even more mad at the sequels that they dropped her. And I know she shows up eventually, but
Linda Hamilton for me is super off and on because she is both the best and asked to do the worst. I'm not going to say that she does the worst. I'm going to say that her narration so often
voiceover blows.
Okay,
but I don't want to generalize and say that all voiceover blows.
No. This is Harrison Ford level of
that's what this is.
Delivered.
Okay, that's exactly what this is. This is Harrison Ford in Blade Runner. I'm doing this against my will.
I don't think it's poorly delivered. I think that she is playing Sarah Connor in this moment.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that James Cameron is nervous about his themes being missed. I think that she is because that's
literally what it is, though, right? It's they did focus testing, and then there was two elements that the audience didn't understand, and so they added in the character being like, "Hey guys, just between you and me, here's what's going on."
Maybe the robot's the best dad. Christ, come on.
But that's part of it too. Is that as Terminator becomes the best parent for John, Sarah becomes the Terminator.
Yeah,
and there's this mix right about before, when they get to Uncle Enrique's house. Sarah becomes, I'm on a mission. There is nothing that will stop me. And the Terminator's like, why do you cry? I'm actually interested.
Yeah.
And so when they cross roles, Sarah is delivering those lines, or Linda Hamilton is delivering those lines in a good performance. It's the fact that they're there ruins her performance.
The lines themselves are shitty.
Yo, we got it, dude.
Yeah,
we understand what's happening in the movie.
If you wrote your movie to have a lot of voiceover so that it's a thing that happens frequently, that's one thing. That's a device I could see.
Election uses voiceover perfectly.
But if there's just a couple of moments in the movie where there's suddenly one of the characters is just talking over the audio, that's a weird experience as the viewer to be like, oh, she's talking now. Okay, that's cool. She's just like,
I want to be over there.
We went on 45 minutes without her talking.
And what she's doing at this time is she's staring at John Connor and the Terminator interacting, and then it cuts back to her, and she's like, "Yeah, I like this." And then it cuts back to them, and they're being very fatherly and sonly together. And then it cuts back to her. The filmic language is telling you what she's thinking there. You don't need her to be
it could have been she could have not unless that they were going to force it into her POV. The movie is now Sarah from here on out, but it wasn't. Right. It's not that because Sarah became the Terminator. We're still only on John and Arnold's side. So they're forcing this in there. And then the most egregious, I think that the thing in the middle where, John didn't have a dad, but Terminator might be a dad. That's the most egregious.
Yeah.
But I would say the second most egregious is at the end where we have a very corny, but still worked totally, of I cannot self-terminate. And then he gets
Lower
sent,
me down.
I can only put a thumbs up right before I die.
Yes, dude. In 91, we were not sure that the thumbs up was like a dorky thing to do.
No, it was super cool.
Yeah,
It
dude,
just-
they do a lot of that in Top Gun, like firing off thumbs up to one another.
And it's such a good ending, but then we have, as I travel down the road, I see that the
because-
future is blackness.
You know what they're afraid of? They were afraid that at the end of the movie, the audience would be like, well, does that still happen? Does the future change? And so she has to be like, okay, honeys, listen. We're not saying which two things happen. We're saying that it's uncertain, right?
You guys ever been in a movie theater with Greg's lowest common denominator of human, and they just say this shit out loud?
What?
It's awful.
Dude, it's
yeah,
always
walking
a
into Django
middle-aged...
Unchained, someone was like, I don't know, that was pretty racist. And I had heard their friend was like, well, yeah, what?
But before we get off this topic, Eddie Furlong, kind of a disaster. I mean, this is not an acting kid. They like found him at a rec center, and they were like, they liked his look, so they put him in the movie.
Also, his voice was he was
Yes.
coming into puberty the entire movie, and that's rough for any kid. There's some stuff that like didn't bother me as much. He has a really big laugh line in this movie. When somebody asks him how many cops are out there, and he says all of them, and like
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
really well delivered.
Hell yeah,
Well,
dude.
it's because he's not trying. It's when they want him to be Bart Simpson.
Yeah,
Is when it's hideous. It's they're like, be sassy, be very funny, and it's not. It's when he is more natural, he's the best.
But there's another part where like all he was told to do
At
was
his
like
best.
look at Terminator and then look out in the distance.
Yeah.
And you can see him like when I dance, when I'm dancing choreographed dance,
One,
and you
two,
can
three.
see me
1, 2, 3.
thinking of every step throughout. You can see him like he is just not a natural actor.
Acting is so fucking hard. Like, we complain so much about actors on this movie. We should occasionally, on the show, should occasionally say acting is so hard. And that's
but
one
we're the
thing that's
best, so we're allowed.
that's one thing that's really hard. It's just like, how
Do you know
do
what's-
people like look at each other and then look off into the distance?
What do I do with my hands? He did not have to do nearly as much, but I do think having Budnick, we meet Eddie Furlong the same time we
A
see
natural
Budnick,
actor.
and Budnick crushes it. And we talked
Yeah.
about how much better he like.
Hey, Mike, never
He
doubt
could've
a
been-
ginger with a mullet.
I never have.
Mike.
That's why we became friends.
Don't real quick. I do want to go over because we'll get to Arnold, or we don't need to. But Bobby Pat,
Yes.
this is such a thankless role because he's a robot, but in a much different way than Arnold. It's almost like the 800 to the 1000 is also in acting. You know,
Yeah.
like
Right.
he is more able to confuse humans than Arnold.
Because
is
it's
stuck.
his job to imitate humans.
Yeah,
right?
Arnold
So,
is stuck
yeah.
here. Is like I just don't like this, but
That made me have this accent for some
yeah,
reason.
like, this is how robots talk.
It's not a tumor.
But the way he like goes up, the way you know what, Greg, give yourself two more.
Greg.
The way he goes up to Eddie Furlong's parents and just convinces them, but it's not normal, but it's not scary. Like the way that he is just focused on one thing, the way that he keeps his head down, and also based on listening to the commentary, the way that he runs, like. In the commentary, they said, Eddie, you have to get on that bike and you have to fucking bust ass out of this parking lot or he will catch you. And then they told the stunt driver that, and they're like, there's no way he's going to catch me. And Robert Patrick put his head down and did the T-1000 run.
That became that
and
robot.
the stunt driver was
It's
like,
horrifying.
10 seconds later, there was a tap on my shoulder because he was fucking behind me.
Well, that's to figure out how to be a different kind of robot, and so it's not just the blend in with humanity a little better. It's that T-800 is emotionless, right? And we watch him learn how to.
But
this is the T-1000 hates humans,
Yes.
and that is
That's
subtly
not
in
emotionless.
everything he does, and it's awesome.
That's not emotionless.
Mike.
When Sarah like almost kicks him into the lava.
Mhm.
And
God,
then
couldn't
he
she
comes
have
back and he does that wavy finger thing. That's not emotionless. Like
No.
he is
And that
getting-
ruins his
he's-
life. That's the end of his
teasing
life.
him.
If he had just like shot as a big liquid towards her as a spear or something, he might not have died. But because he took the time to do that,
That's-
Humanity in
yeah.
him.
yeah.
Robert Patrick, I think, is an incredible find in this movie, and then also to give birth to Peacemaker.
And fucking underrated in X-Files. Let's face it. I mean,
face
he had
it.
a great turn in X-Files.
All the
When
times
we
he just screamed Mulder to a shadow who ran away.
when we come back, it's trivia time.
Trivia.
You heard the robot. It's time for trivia. Let me read the entire question. Ring in by saying your name. I decide if you're right or wrong. I'm the judge. All right. What did Robert Patrick train himself to do to appear more ominous while running in the film?
Ryan.
Mike.
Ryan.
Arms? Arm work?
Mike, what was your answer?
Looking down.
No, it was he taught himself to only breathe through his nose when he runs so that he didn't have to be like, but like, okay, cool. That's good. The Terminator doesn't breathe at all, so it doesn't matter where you breathe. It's wrong. What about Edward Furlong made filming over time very difficult?
Ryan. His voice changed. Puberty.
Puberty came and grabbed this kid and like put a foot on him. So like they had to like dig holes in the ground so that he would not be too tall.
Height.
He sprang up and his voice changed, which is why half of his lines are obviously
Well, he's not Edward for short.
Ryan. That's why like half his lines sound like they're done by like a woman.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of ADR in this. What part of his body did Arnold Schwarzenegger hurt while cocking that shotgun in that cool way in the riverbed scene?
Mike. Shoulder.
Not shoulder, Ryan.
Fingies?
His fingies. Ryan. Apparently they didn't want to let him wear a glove, and he kept getting his like skin trapped in the mechanism. And they had to keep doing it, and it was a really complicated shot.
Also, I heard that at one point for a shot, he picked up the wrong gun. It was the wrong type of shotgun, so that it didn't cock that way, but he went to, and all of his fingers just shattered.
Oh my God. Christ. Carlico Studio executives were nervous and concerned when the original budget of the movie was $75 million, but then ballooned up to $88 million. And they proposed cutting what scene to keep costs down?
Ryan.
I'm
going to say the nuclear holocaust scene.
That's a really good guess, Mike.
Where Robbie Patz walks through the jail bars.
No, okay, that's a really good guess, too. The answer is the scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger walks naked through the biker bar. How are you going to save money on that?
That was a $12 million scene.
Why cut that? Like, both of you came up with much better, cost-effective. Let's cut out the part where it's just him naked. No!
You don't even have a clothes budget.
Also, don't cut that scene because then Greg will go, no!
Oh, dude, no matter what your sexual orientation is, part of the reason you go to see an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie is to, like, look at his body. So don't take out the only scene where he's got the goods on display. What amounted to 3.5 minutes of screen time but cost $5.5 million and 8 months to produce? Ryan.
Oh, shit. I'm going to say the 2029 scene. The
Mike?
intro.
Mike, I was the Capri Sunnage of T1000.
Yeah, it's all of the effects for a T1000 amount to 3.5 minutes of screen time.
Wow.
Took 8 months to produce and cost $5.5 million.
Wait, what does Capri Sunnage mean?
Like that, he looks like a delicious Capri Sun.
The Capri Sun commercials at the time, the kids would drink it and turn into T1000s and like go through sewers and have fun.
Yeah. This was so influential. Like, I mean, Carnage, the comic book character, probably only exists because of this.
Alex Mack.
What was Arnold Schwarzenegger given by a producer for agreeing to be in the movie to help seal the deal?
Ryan. The Harley.
That's such a good answer. Mike?
Mike. The sunglasses.
Okay, that's a less good answer. A airplane. He was given a Gulfstream 3 airplane. Man, being rich is crazy. I couldn't imagine having the kind of...
I don't have an airplane.
Ryan, could you imagine what would happen to you financially if somebody gave you an airplane?
I would be bankrupt within...
the amount they eat alone.
Yeah. You have to feed so much lettuce into the mouths of airplanes.
Okay. What did Linda Hamilton learn to do with a paperclip for this role?
Ryan. She would not... She would not let movie magic unlock that lock for her when she was trapped in the hospital.
Yeah, she wanted to really pick the lock.
Because she was fucking awesome. Linda Hamilton.
Yeah, there's a reason why Linda Hamilton's like, I just want my character to be crazy. That's the only thing I demand. I'm not that good an actress where I can hide it. What was going on across the street the same night the biker bar scene was filmed?
Ryan. Okay, so allegedly, and Greg, I don't know if this is true, but allegedly you can see the filming of Terminator 2 in the beginning of the Rodney King beating video.
Holy shit.
Is that true?
Yeah, across the street from where they were filming, Rodney King, like on that same night, was being beaten by the LAPD.
Almost ended up in the scandals, in the speed round scandals.
How did it not?
Yeah,
Was that 90?
That was 91.
It what? Okay, we did a bad job.
We messed up.
Well, we did. Once again, we've done a bad job. How many hours did Arnold Schwarzenegger's damaged Terminator makeup take to put on?
Mike. 9.5.
Ryan?
Snine is not a number.
Very true.
I was going to say 0 minutes because it's clearly not his head. It's clearly Stan Winston's head getting smashed in. But I'm going to say, Mike said 9.5. I will go with 6.
Ryan.
Just a scotch under. It was 5. What animal did Robert Patrick imitate for his head movements as the T-1000? Mike.
Snake?
Not a snake, Ryan.
Meerkat.
Not a meerkat. It was a bald eagle. Bald eagle. Is that
eagle.
Is that a little on the nose? Is that a little bit too much?
America.
It's fucking American as shit.
It is American as shit. Very good.
Ryan.
And you both
Mike.
said
Do you guys, historically, do you think this is the first movie to say ACARB? ARCAB? ARCAB.
Well, I think that it's just a fuck authority message, but I think it's very interesting that the bad guy takes on the demeanor of it takes on the appearance.
While our hero dresses like a criminal biker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Our antagonist dresses like a cop.
yeah, and keep in mind that like if John Connor had just submitted to authority at any point in this movie, he would have died.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, if he at any point had gone to the cops and that's what Lyndall Hamilton does in the first movie, right? Sarah Connor goes to the police right away like a good 80s American citizen.
Cool. Step into this prison cell.
And, yeah, that does not work out too well for her. So, what sound did they use for the Foley of Arnold Schwarzenegger's iconic shotgun?
Ryan. A shotgun.
Not a shotgun, a cannon.
Oh.
As was the case for a lot of movies at this time, the Foley is a little bit over the top in this. And so all the gun sounds are so extra, including his shotgun is replaced with 2 different cannon sounds. And that's canon. How long before the movie's release did the teaser trailer for the movie come out? Mike.
2 years.
Ryan.
1 year.
1
Ryan.
calendar year. If you were 9, how long is 1 year?
Ryan. I would say, based on my mathematics, and I'm punching it into my computer right now, that is about 6.5 or 7 years.
Dude,
Ryan.
I can remember sitting in the theater and seeing the dun 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 dun, and then
Because
it's
you're there
like,
to see like a Bambi
yeah,
revival.
I'm there to see some stupid shit that as soon as this preview started, I had completely forgotten. It was probably like one of these Steven Seagal or Van Damme movies that we were just making fun of.
I don't know if you already answered this, Greg, but did you know when you saw the T2 preview, did you know that Terminator was a thing?
No. I mean, maybe like I was like always looking at the video covers
Yeah.
at this, so I probably was
Most
kind
of our
aware.
movie awareness was video boxes in the video
Yeah,
store.
right. And so then that preview happens where they're like constructing an Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator. And I was like, my family used to always talk about like, are we going to see this movie? We like give a thumbs up if we wanted to, thumbs down.
Oh.
When it said the next summer, I thought I was going to
Yeah.
cry. So my next question to you is that fair to do to 9-year-old Greg? Mike.
No. So
No.
unfair to do to 9-year-old
Mike.
Greg.
That was so unfair. I can't tell you how long that year was. Like,
If there was a Spider-Man trailer for me
Yes.
now that said coming out in 5 years, I would be like, cool. I'm not going to think about that
Yeah,
for 5
like,
years at all.
I could
like,
do that so easy.
That will be here in no time.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're 9, 1 year from now, that is a fucking lifetime.
Growing up in Orange County, I thought Disneyland was 2 hours away. And we drove there all the time because it was the longest car ride in the world. Everything's forever to kids.
We know that every Terminator after the first one had a gimmick, and the only good gimmick, of course, was liquid metal Terminator. There was also like electricity Terminator.
Terminator.
What would a female
That's the
Terminator?
gimmick.
A Terminator with curves. What would your Terminator gimmick be,
Ryan,
This
Terminator gets a lot of people on board his side because he has a podcast.
All right, podcast. Mike, what would yours
Mike,
be?
surfing Terminator.
Surfing Terminator.
Surfinator.
Mike.
Surfing Terminator, of course. If Mike were a Terminator, then he would be a big-time surfer. When we come back, more conversation about this, our greatest movie.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening so far. And let me just tell you that everything ahead of this commercial is much better than what came before it. That's my guarantee. While I have you here, let me tell you about a website. It's called yourpopfilter.com. And it's everything you need that's related to Pop Filter. Everything Mike, everything Ryan, everything Greg, everything Cassie, everything is there at yourpopfilter.com. While you're there, go to yourpopfilter.com/Amazon. Make that your new Amazon bookmark and do your shopping from there. That way, we get a little piece of the action and Amazon doesn't. Make sure you're also listening to everything that Pop Filter has to offer, which includes the Superhero Show, a podcast that covers every single TV show that's based on a comic book or comic book property, and Movie of the Year, where we sit down and try and figure out what is the single greatest movie of any given year. That's Superhero Show, that's Movie of the Year, and that's yourpopfilter.com. Rate, subscribe, review, bye!
Does this movie have anything to say about technology and humanity's reliance on it? Or are robots just cool and scary? Is there a message in this movie?
I think there's a million messages in this movie, Mike, but I want to talk to you about how many of them are subtle and well-delivered, and how many of them are, all right, shut the fuck up movie.
Message time, idiots.
I do think that it might be Mr. Burn disease case where there's too many messages, so none of them come out clearly.
Mike.
So it doesn't, because you could argue, like, yeah, clearly if this kind of movie, it has to be like technology, but it actually, I don't think this movie cares about technology and how we relate to it at all.
I think it's about how it's such a complicated relationship between the two, though, isn't it? That how we rely on some of it, but we become over-reliant on...
And back when I was talking about Steven Spielberg in Jurassic Park and getting points for that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right.
Those were the good old days.
The question of, we know that we could, but we don't know if we should. I think that comes up a lot of like, we have to move forward. We have to go downhill with all technology. And Miles Dyson is faced with this one thing that literally no technical person, Zuckerberg or whoever, has ever thought about before, of like, you led to the destruction of society, and we're in the room with you right now. How do you deal with that? And
I guess
I like
for
his
me,
reaction.
that doesn't.
Right.
Yeah, I love his reaction, but it doesn't feel like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like, and because of technology, where Jurassic Park does feel like, how far should scientists go? Coulda, shoulda, woulda. And this is just like, if you knew what your actions would do, would you still do it more than technology? It felt more fate.
For me, it's a lot more the intersection of technology and authority. I think that this movie is really against almost any type of like established authority. And
for sure.
Authority or fascism? Like, can we take it a step further?
Yeah, the cops are all awful. The company, even in Miles, who works there, he's like, they never told us where these came from. They told us not to ask. Like, so it is like secrets and authority are bad.
Yeah.
But, like,
more than.
But while Miles is saying that, he's like, so I'll destroy it. I guess. Like, he's a little bit, like, he knows what the right thing is. He knows the difference between right and wrong, but he's still a little like, fuck, man. Like,
I
this
think
is
it's
my
because
entire life.
We always...
Exactly. It's his entire life.
And also because we always have the hope that we can use technology to make our lives better and not to make it worse. You know, I mean, like, the idea of, like, the birth of an AI should be a beautiful thing, right? But... Instead, I don't think so. Instead, it's a nightmare. But think of the way the like vehicles in this are so lovingly shot, and that's the thing, and that's why I brought up the vehicles earlier, because they're not the cars of the ultra rich. They are like everyday working people, family vehicles, and the way they're shot is loving. And like, it reminded me of Drive My Car, like the way that car is shot. It's with a lot of love and care, and not because this is a high-performance vehicle, but because it's technology in the service of the things that we care about.
And no matter what, we think about how T-1000 can do insane things, but he can't recreate this thing that gets us from place to place. Like, look how much we depend on vehicles throughout this entire movie, and T-1000, as great as he is, can't do this. He can't chase us down, you know, like... Even if he's in a helicopter, the helicopter has its own like setbacks where like it can't chase down the Team 1000 is always in a semi truck for some reason. He always finds like a big cabin to be in.
Well, that's
because he's always has a semi.
But see, that's interesting. Yeah, he's always in like a semi truck, or at one point he's in a truck that
because he goes for like the biggest, grossest, most masculine thing, and then but no, like if I'm on this little bike, then I just get away from you.
Even though it's like a 100cc bike that a grown
Right.
man can chase down.
Or the truck with the house on it. Like I really do think that truck is very important in the movie. Of like, if you get off the right off ramps, then this house truck will beat the semi truck.
What is it saying about like motherhood? Or maybe is it specific to motherhood, or is it about parenting?
I thought that this was a little bit Full Housey in that moms don't matter as long as you have 3 dads. It's just that, like,
but she matters so much because we learn that Eddie Furlong has all these badass skills because she basically, the movie says, prostitute herself out to different crazy ex-military dudes so he could learn all these skills to become a general.
And would he have become
motherhood?
John Connor?
Mike.
No, because she sacrificed her actual body and then her freedom.
Wait, did she fuck dudes for
yes,
guns?
That's his.
Yes, John says that to Budnick.
But John's opinion is that she got with different groups with different guys because they had different skill sets that she wanted to learn. Because you have to remember, she's so badass in this movie. But if you watch the first movie, she's a waitress who lives with her best friend and is silly and is like 18 years old. Like she's a kid in the first movie.
In the first movie, she never changes out of that like Marie Callender's waitress dress. Like she's in that pink.
She's always ready to serve pie.
Her bangs, just her bangs, are like the mark of entire innocence. Like she's just like such a little soft thing. And the idea was that she changes herself so much. Yeah, in sacrifice of John, right? But it prevents her from being like the stereotypical mother to him, right?
But also, wouldn't you?
To keep him alive,
to protect your child, and you know for a fact
humanity.
that the humanity is going to end.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you do all of this stuff?
And you would, and that's the thing. And then her character, the question is, what does that do to you? Because she sacrifices herself, and she essentially, like Mary, sacrifices her son. She knowingly kind of sacrifices her son. Not that he dies at any point in these movies that I'm aware of, but she knows that she like is giving up his childhood, giving up his mental health.
Is the most wrong part about this movie the part where she cannot pull the trigger on
Miles.
Dyson?
No, because it's a crying kid. Yeah. And then she freaks out and sees the relationship. It's not him and his wife crying. It's another kid. And then so she very quickly, and I think Hamilton does a great job showing it all on her face, extrapolates and makes all those connections. And a cloying voiceover doesn't have to come in and be like, I stopped.
If she hadn't done it with her face, then she would have just been like, hey, guess why I didn't kill these people? It's that kid.
That would be awesome if she started into a voiceover and John Connor ran in and was like, Mom, stop!
Stop doing voiceover!
We don't need it.
Speed round.
All right. How badly did you want to drink a Capri Sun during this movie?
Oh, man.
I want to so bad.
I never have the opportunity, but I bet I would be so good at it now of like putting that fucking straw right through that fucking hole.
Oh,
bullseye.
I honestly,
Ryan.
I always just flip that bad boy in and just go in
Oh,
the
really?
back.
You're just from the butt the entire time?
Dude, I can't.
Greg's always a butt guy.
I cannot. I just can't get it in the other one. Who's the real hero of this movie?
Ryan.
Is the real hero of this movie? Mike, do you agree?
I think the Budnick, nothing would happen without him. So Ryan is the real hero of this movie. You're burnt.
I'm gonna give this point to Stephanie, my wife. But while we were watching it, she pointed out that this is the first movie she's ever seen where the kid, the Robin to the Batman, is the mentor.
Yeah.
And the Batman is like the hero.
Right.
And so it is Terminator, but sort of through John Connor, who teaches him how to do it. That's fucking that. You add
That's
the kid.
smart. She should be on the show instead of you.
But
I think it's Miles.
Okay, why? Explain.
Self-sacrifice. If you love that so much, why don't you self-sacrifice right now?
He gives up his life's work in an evening.
Yeah.
Because these crazy people come in. He believes them right away because he already has, like qualms with his company. And then he is the only character. He's the only main character who dies in this movie. And he
Interesting
sacrifices
to
himself
think
to
about.
protect them.
What's different about Miles that he might be the only
We'll
character
get to that in the
to
awards,
die?
Craig. We'll get to that in the awards.
But we didn't talk about that though. Like the craziness of saying you can't kill anybody, Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you sign on to this movie. That was a big deal. Like
Yeah.
you must only walk through rooms and shoot people in knees.
Yeah.
Which is still
Hilarious,
a fantastic scene,
Dude.
yeah.
Also, how funny is it to have that minigun and be up on like the third story of that building firing down and you can't kill anybody?
Yeah.
He didn't even accidentally get one of
Yeah.
those guys.
Trust me, no. I'm not
That's
gonna trust you.
in Dark Knight Returns, the comic, when Batman unloads on an army, and then there's just a little voice thing or caption that says "rubber bullets."
Have no fear. These are just rubber bullets. I say the real hero of this movie is supposed to be John Connor, but I want it to be Linda Hamilton so bad. And I wish they had just had it be that she shoots him with the shotgun off the thing into the... Like, just let her have it. Like, let it be her. It's okay.
That's I think a sign of the times of like, well, but Arnold's the star.
I mean, he had died. They had to call Arnold Schwarzenegger on Christmas he was going to have Christmas with Bruce Willis, and instead he had to go to do reshoots to film scenes explaining why his dead character had come back to save the day.
We need to have a true crime podcast called Christmas with Bruce Willis.
Willis. Bruce Willis residence. I can't come to Christmas. I'm sorry. No, don't say it, man. It's crazy. I leave Franco out in L.A. Yeah, come out for Christmas.
He's just always like that.
All right. Well, that is the end of Speed Round. I am going to add up these scores. Wait, no, we got awards to do. Fuck that. We're going to do awards when I come back, and then I'll add up the scores, because that's the way this show goes, or at least that's the way it went 6 weeks ago, the last time we made it. Awards. It was the only reason I did anything as a kid, just to get that sweet participation trophy. I demanded it of every adult. Hey, if I'm going to be in this event, you better give me a participation trophy. And that's how I ruined everybody else in my generation.
What am I, fucking Greg? Give me a fucking participation trophy.
Did you not see me participating? Give me a friggin' trophy, right? I've been participating. Then give me a trophy.
We need a podcast spinoff called Little Greg, and it's a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, and I'm just going around demanding
He's
things.
so sassy.
Hey, I want 12 dozen donuts. Give them to me right now.
Lil Greg was so New York.
I was so New York. Man, I had lived a disproportionate amount of my life in New York, three months at a time. All right, but we are here to discuss awards. Let's start with the T2 specifics. In a movie full of badass moments, Ryan, what is the A number one badassedest moment in the movie?
I mean, this is like sifting through, what do you think, 1,000 different moments?
It's kind of like a million badass moments all stitched
together. You know what?
together.
Actually, Greg, now that I'm thinking about it, it might be a billion
It might
different
be as
moments.
many-
Googleplex
It might be
moments.
No, Mike, don't take it. No.
Yeah, Greg, come on. Mike.
I think it's just like billion. I think that's where you cap it.
Billion?
But
Okay, yeah, trillion, baby.
Mike.
Greg's little trillion baby. Microphone, yeah.
It makes me happy. It's a fun number, trillion.
T1000 puts a fucking pointy finger right into, not like Leonardo style, where it just catches her shirt on the wall,
Oh,
no,
but it
sir.
catches her shirt and skin on the wall. Greg, she now has one arm.
Yeah.
What is she to do? Except maybe do one of the most iconic things in action hero history, which is walk forward towards the person who is about to kill her son,
hell yeah.
cocking a shotgun with
hell
one
yeah.
hand the entire time, and almost kill him if there wasn't somebody who was a bigger star than her at the time. But she almost got that motherfucker into the lava. It is Linda Hamilton, Sarah Connor, cocking a shotgun with one hand.
One arm, like just barely, like leaning up against the side of the thing. Oh my God. Chills, literal chills. Mike, can you beat that?
Mine is also Linda Hamilton.
Yes.
Because that's the kind of podcast
You're
we are.
each getting a point.
Mine is also Linda Hamilton.
She drugs and chokes out the orderly, who's a real monster, and sneaks out, and she is barefoot running down the hall, and she flips the baton for a way she could perfectly choke out or hit somebody with it. And I was just like, oh, why isn't this the whole movie?
She was carrying that nightstick down the hall, and I was like looking at the nightstick. I was like, that's such a weird weapon. I don't think that does much. And then she swung it around so that it was like protecting her forearm, and I was like, yeah, nightstick.
Do you guys remember when she got licked in the face, and you were like, I'm so used to watching
one of the worst moments of my life.
I'm used to watching 1991 movies. In 1990 or 1976 movies, what year did we do?
75.
75. And like, oh, this guy's going to get away with it. And then Linda Hamilton beats the living shit out
The
of
movie
him.
has
Not get away with it.
The movie has 3 seconds to be like, okay, listen, this guy's going to get knocked out. But it's okay, and here's why.
You're gonna love it.
Look what he's doing here. See what a fucking creep he's being? Fuck this guy.
It's the perfect movie.
I'm giving it to Ryan. That shotgun moment, oh my God.
Yeah.
Every single time I'm like, she's going to kill the Terminator. Nah, dude, the movie actually just stays the same. Next up, Mike, what is your favorite parody of something in T2?
First one I thought of, and it has to be, it's Wayne's World. It's when Robbie Patz does the "Have you seen this boy?" to
Have
Wayne
you seen this boy?
and they scream and drive away.
That's a good one, Ryan.
I know we've already talked about this in this episode, but like, this is the most referenced, most parodied movie of all time.
Yes.
I still believe that.
You could make a version of this
You could
movie
probably
that's just
refilm the
references.
movie, yeah.
Yes.
Just liquid metal alone.
Yes.
Is so much T2 reference, but I am going to go with something that blew my mind. This is from a TV show that referenced Terminator 2 no less than 26 times in its full run, but I am going to pick a time where Homer decided that he wanted to be friends with Ned Flanders.
Hell yeah, season 5 maybe, episode 16.
What?
And then chased his car and put Ned Flanders' golf clubs into the car.
Nettie?
And just as it chased down, like that was when I was like, I don't know what pop culture is capable of. Like, this is too much for me right now.
That same episode.
This is The Simpsons combining with Terminator 2. These are the only two things I know to be true.
That same episode has another Terminator 2 reference, which is like the most gift part of Simpsons history, which is Homer emerging from the bushes to talk.
Yeah.
That's like the T-1000 going through the bars. He
What
comes out of the
episode
bushes.
can't hold all of that, Greg?
I watched a super clip of all of the Simpsons references to Terminator 2.
Oh shit!
Halfway through it, it left my era of watching The Simpsons, and half of the references were from seasons I no longer watch.
But they
The
still
Simpsons.
they
But
still
they're
continue
still-
to reference the movies that you grew up
They're
on.
still doing it. So
Ryan.
I'm gonna give that one to Ryan, even though you didn't mention the Bush part. I had to miss it, but that's okay. That's okay. Who has the best performance in this entire movie? Ryan.
I am going to take the hit here. I do think that, like, as many moments as Linda Hamilton has where she is absolutely amazing, she also has to read those lines, and she is cheesy as fuck. Whereas Bobby Patz is just good the entire time. I can't believe how committed to the role he is of, like, I'm a cop, and this is how they act. This is not how robots from the future act. This is how literal cops act. This is how they talk to people.
He looked at one cop for 1 second,
Yeah.
and he totally understood
Like,
the
no,
entire
this
thing.
is how they roll. I
Hey,
have to give it
nice
to Bobby
bite.
Patz.
All right, very good. Mike, do you agree, disagree, or neither?
Neither.
That's not possible. How
I don't know. I abstain. What does it neither mean? I don't like that Ryan's argument also shat on my. I think it is Linda Hamilton, and when I say performance, I'm not saying the narration. I'm saying her actual on-screen
Dude,
performances.
I'm so down for that. I think there are times where actors, however they narrate, does not count as part of their performance.
This is the Blade Runner theory.
This really is,
Yes.
yeah. Because she has the same exact energy as Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford did not want to do those voiceovers, and I swear Linda Hamilton didn't either.
Hey, bunch of Terminators running around.
Hey, look at this.
Cool.
Look at these fuckers. These fucking guys suck. Look,
They're
what
in
are
the
they gonna do?
trees. Now they're not in the trees.
That was a fucking human skull. He just like stepped on
Yeah.
it. That's a person.
Oh my
Yeah,
god!
why would you
You
just
know what we
step
haven't
on
talked about in the intro when it's just supposed to be credits? A fucking full-on Terminator skull comes forward while flames are in the.
Yes.
How
Hell
could
yeah,
you
it
not be
does.
more pumped up for a
Dude.
movie?
Linda Hamilton. She wins it for me. Good job, Mike. How about director's signature moment? Mike?
I'm gonna say the first time we see the T-1000 shift and how mind-blowing it had to be at that time when you've seen it. Nothing has ever been like this. And this is, like I said earlier, this is this guy's bag. He actually just wants to be a dude who creates new technologies. He just happens to do it in movies. And every one of his movies, he's just like, oh, people don't do that? We're going to do it. We're going to invent new shit every movie I fucking make.
I feel like someone did a graphics demo and they're like, what we're really good at is like this weird liquidy stuff. And he was like, I have 2 different movie ideas. Thank you for showing this to me. I have to go make 2 different movies right now. So the like first liquidy transition.
Yeah.
Ryan, what do you say? What's the director's signature moment?
I love James Cameron, and I really do think that like he has a spot in the Pop Filter Hall of Fame.
His last name's almost Camera.
It's almost like
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Why not be Lens Camera?
Greg.
But I think it's the playground getting burnt. Like he still loves a little bit about like how, hey, do you know what this movie's about? I just need to show you real quick. And
this was like the most important part of the movie to him, wasn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
The amount like this playground was like once a playground that children were playing on. But now this playground, there's no more play.
No.
It's ground.
It's just ground.
for dismissal.
Just ground.
And he loves that shit, and he watches it burn. He's like, yes, everyone will know what I'm doing finally in the movie. And just like, bitch, we knew what you were doing in the movie the entire rest of the movie. But he films, like, the little kid stuff getting burnt is just so James Cameron.
And then all blowing away as ash. Man, kind of a weird departure. I'm going to go
Mike.
with Mike on that because I feel like this is a guy who saw liquid stuff and was like, man, I know what I'm doing with my life.
Wait, Mike or James Cameron?
I almost don't want to do this, but we have to because we hold each movie to the same standard. And it doesn't matter if you're Terminator 2 or Barry Lyndon, you're still getting the treatment. What's the cringiest moment from this movie, Ryan?
Oh, I've talked about it multiple times. I sit at this table. I've been in this movie for 90 minutes. Clearly, the robot is his dad, and yet I look at it more, and I must tell you, the audience, that the robot is acting more like his dad than any dad ever could. He is the dad. There is no dad. I've never seen a dad. Don't know who the dad is. Don't like robots. I hate
Meanwhile,
robots, but he's the dad.
The guy from the first movie, sorry I died.
Yeah.
Sorry I came back in time,
Mr.
saved
Bean?
your life, and then fucking died. Yeah, because I'm a quirky English comedian.
Yeah, sorry, my eyebrows are too big.
Sorry, I can't keep these turkeys off my head. The only thing Mr. Bean's known for.
And
Sorry, I can't communicate. And I just go.
Who would win in a fight, Mr. Bean or Butterbean? Sound off, Ryan.
Oh, wow. Butterbean Greg.
Probably Butterbean.
That's a long.
Is
that's
is Butterbean okay?
I just.
I was gonna say, Mr. Bean is rude. He would not ask if Butterbean is okay.
You guys didn't watch the director's cut of Terminator 2, where Sarah Connor said, I put a giant turkey on his head. He did not die. He fought through it. He is the best father. But man,
Butterbean knocked him out. He did not die.
This was all shit that you put in a script to be cut.
Yeah.
To be cut.
You will
Gotta cut something.
if you are an astute viewer of cinema, you will literally cringe when this stuff happens. Mike, what do you got for me?
If you've seen what's that 85 war movie? Come Away With Me?
Come and see.
Come and see.
If you've seen Come and See or listen to Movie of the Year, you're an astute viewer of cinema, and you know that this is stupid bullshit.
Yeah. If you're a viewer and you don't understand what's going on in the movie, it's because that's a good movie. Okay?
Yes.
If you understand everything that happened, that's a bad movie. And for my citation on that, Movie of the Year. Mike, what had you cringing?
It's. I know this might be too woke for broke, but it's realizing that Joe Morton is the only character who dies.
He's the only
And it's just
fucking
like,
main character that dies. So that means every time you watch a movie and someone dies in the movie, just ask yourself, was that a black character?
He's also the smartest, bestest scientist.
okay.
Yeah, he's the smartest, bestest scientist,
But
which is
this-
awesome. But the cops run in and just shoot him in the back right away, and it went too real.
They just
I don't want that here.
lit
And then
him
he
up.
dies.
Like, I think there should be a coordinator on every single movie, and their only job is to figure out whether or not the script accidentally has a person of color as the first.
It might happen accidentally. Stop.
And it takes this movie until its second hour, but it still creates this sin. It still has the first character that matters who dies is a black guy. What the hell?
The movie goes out of its way to say we will literally not kill people.
We're not
wait,
gonna
wait,
kill
wait, wait.
anybody.
Shoot that guy.
Oh, that guy. Hang on. Get
Shoot
him.
that guy a bunch.
All right, we got him.
Mike.
I'm sorry, Terminator 2. That is the most frustrating thing about you. I can't believe that happens. Well, I am spent.
Yeah, dude, that was a lot.
And there's almost nothing to do now but lick our wounds, count our points, and talk about how far we think this movie can go in our 1991 bracket. Well, I know one thing about this movie and one thing about this episode.
That's a classic right there.
That's a classic right there. And then also Barton Fink, because I have fat fingers. So, yeah, think about it, though. Like, I can play two of these at the same time, and I mean something slightly different.
Hey, Skrillex, make a song out of that. Where are you, bud?
Where have you been? The nation cries out for you. Before we get down to the nitty-gritty of who won, who lost, and who's sad, how about some recommendations? Does anybody have any recommendations for if you like Terminator 2, you might enjoy what, Mike? Terminator 3, do you think?
No.
Rise of
I
the
think
Machines?
Rise of the Machines, Ryan?
I think you will not like Rise of the Machines.
It's actually not that bad.
It's fine.
It's
just
fine.
not. It's the best of the sequels.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
how
so
about-
way after Terminator 2.
should I watch?
Oh no. I mean,
Should
yeah.
I watch it as a fan?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's...
Well, after what this got me so pumped. I was like, should I go back and watch like the Sarah Connor Chronicles? Like, I want more of this shit.
It's
but
hard.
I don't want to watch the fucking Christian Bale one.
You see like Linda Hamilton and Arnold Schwarzenegger on the cover, and your hand just starts going for it. You're like, maybe I ought to watch this. No. Be strong.
I was on the Edward Furlong Wikipedia today, and it said that he was recast as John Connor for T3 because he was addicted to drugs and fat,
I mean,
the guy who they got is skinny.
but also a criminal.
Is he?
Yes.
He doesn't look like he doesn't
bad,
have cool wavy hair though.
bad folks. Mike, what's your recommendation?
I'm gonna say if you want an interplay of human and machine, check out Ex Machina.
Oh, hell yeah. I love that.
The comic or the movie?
Alex Garland in the house?
Alex Garland, Oscar Isaac, Domhnall Gleeson, Alicia Vikander, killer cast. It's great. Go check that out. Not the comic. The comic is fine if you go back to it.
Ryan, what do you think?
So Mike and I mentioned Wayne's World and The Simpsons as Terminator references, and those are the two biggest. But I think there's a third one where Arnold Schwarzenegger, playing a cop in a movie walks into a video store and right past Robert Patrick, and he's like, what? I think it's time to give Last Action Hero a rewatch.
Right.
Where Sly Stallone is the Terminator in that
Yes.
universe.
And I think the problem was people were like, there's not enough. This isn't all-time jokes, because they really tried to do a lot with that movie, and it's not successful.
No.
But I'm saying that now that we know it's not, rewatch it, and it's kind of good.
Last Action Hero is a perfect example of a movie where people would not grant it what it was trying to do.
Right.
They
Right.
refused to watch it in the way the movie's intended to be watched. And again, it's not successful, but like people went so hard for this movie because it was fun. Like before Twitter, there was like late night comic jokes, and people loved going after this movie, and it all came down to purposefully misunderstanding.
Yeah.
The whole final sequence is because Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal comes alive, and death comes out of that. But also in this same year, didn't we also watch Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey?
We sure did.
Where
It was a great year for Seventh Seal.
For Ingmar Bergman.
Yeah.
Death is like a main character. So come on, let's like Bogus Journey a little bit less and give that love to Last Action Hero.
I love it. That's so good. Mine would just be The Matrix. If you liked this movie, why not see a movie that is heavily influenced?
Guns, please.
It's the best sequel to T2.
I have to say, the more time has gone on, the more obvious it's been that The Matrix is just a lot of other ideas cobbled together.
Yeah.
And I think that recommends it, honestly.
that-
It's
It's
a
Star Wars, baby.
It's a bunch of the good ideas I like all in one place.
Star Wars was like 1932 to 1977.
Yeah.
And then Matrix was 1977 to 1999.
Yeah. And also gave trans kids something to look at and get excited about. Abucha. Good enough for me. So,
Kombucha. Greg's new.
Skadoosh.
Abucha. All right. So, we are all winners after that segment, but there can only be one winner of this show. Mike, you scored 37 points. A commendable effort. Well done. Ryan, you're like some sort of house on the back of a truck. because you just absolutely ran right over Mike with 44 points, and I clocked in at a not too shabby 10.
Okay.
Wow,
Not
that's actually
that
very
bad.
impressive for a host.
For the host, that's pretty good. Or
So
pretty
you
sad.
and Mike did beat me.
Yeah, together, Mike and I took down Ryan. But 44 points, Ryan, that is, I don't think a high score ever, but is certainly.
It's up there.
Yeah,
We're
like
on
if-
the board.
Yeah, you're going to be
I
up on
fucking
that
love
leaderboard.
This movie.
Okay, so now let's turn to that. I thought before the season began that watching this movie might be a sobering experience for me. And I thought, yeah, I really like it. It's one of my favorite movies from when I was a kid. But it's not going to win Movie of the Year. Gentlemen, I submit this to you. This might win Movie of the Year, right?
I wouldn't be surprised.
We have 2 more movies left. We have a lot of like bonus episodes and blah blah.
Yeah.
But we have 2 more movies left.
We got blah, blah for days.
I don't know. I am a huge fan of some of the movies that we've watched. But I would say that this has been the season of like, I thought that movie would be better. You know,
Yeah.
like there's
Yeah.
like Addams Family made the top 8.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's
that was this year.
It's very possible that like this movie is the perfect combination of Greg plus Mike plus Ryan, and that we Voltron into this. I don't know.
Into a T800.
We have A Brighter Summer Day,
Yeah.
and we have Thelma and Louise,
Yeah.
and that's what's left. I don't know.
There is going to be vote splitting, and the movie that's going to be there is going to be all of our second favorite. It's
Yeah.
going to be Terminator 2 and Terminator
Just
2.
walking through the fire.
I'm not guaranteeing it, but I feel like it's way more likely to happen after the show than I was before it, and that's an exciting.
Will you
thing.
guys feel bad? Not bad, but like, will this be a weird year when like Eyes Wide Shut, L.A. Confidential?
That's still, isn't that weird to say?
That's still fucked
Yeah.
up, right?
What else do we have?
Spotless Mind,
Spotless Mind. Is Terminator
Dog Day
Die
Afternoon, Die Hard.
is Terminator 2 no, it's not going to feel weird. I mean, we
I don't
have
think
Die
so.
Hard and we have Dog Day
Yeah.
Afternoon.
No, and I mean,
Yeah.
we have rarely watched a movie that gave us as many different feelings, like as many different types of movie. It's like, speculative fiction, it's science fiction, it's action, it's a little bit horror.
It's a family drama. You
It's a
know that
family
because she'll
drama.
tell you.
So I think there is a real chance. Now we do have a couple of movies coming up. Thelma and Louise and Brighter Summer Day. And that might change things. We're going to be doing those over the next few weeks. But until then, I kind of think this is the dark horse.
Also, Silence of the Lambs, right? Like,
Oh, shit, yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
there
yeah.
are movies that we already did.
And that's another blockbuster-y type movie that I think.
Yeah.
But I feel, I don't know, I think I liked this more than I liked Silence of the Lambs, to be honest. Well, that's why they do the shows. That's why they do the bracket, everybody, right? Because we're going to have to see. We don't know what's going to win. The future is not set. Fate's not
All
determined
you see before
yet.
you is a dark road.
Dark road.
Just to rock you guys with the past instead of the future. Beauty and the Beast and Barton Fink. Do you remember those shows?
Wow.
It's Addams Family that really feels like from another lifetime.
Yeah, that feels like
that
8
feels like
years ago.
so long ago.
That
where-
was Obama was
Seriously.
president, right?
was in president.
He was in president.
Well, that's all we have to say, I assume, about Terminator 2. In the next coming weeks, Thelma and Louise, Brighter Summer Day. But until then, hey, everybody, do us a favor, won't you? And keep watching those movies.